How about now? Do you want to just bring that thing over here? You want to just bring it over? Okay, all right. This is draft 5. Because of the virus, this is kind of late for the board to be getting the first presentation of the draft. We usually do that in March, but we'll move forward with this. The first slide is a projection for 1920. We budgeted $89 million in expenditures. We project that we'll spend $86.4 million. Revenue, we budgeted $83.5 million. We're probably going to end up with $83.7 million. So the budgeted deficit was $5,441,000. The projected deficit will be $2,658,000. Anybody have any questions on that slide? You could ask questions as I go, and I'll just wait.
Buzzy, could you just address where the, where the savings came from in the budget this year, in the current school year that brought us in, $2.5 million under?
Well, most of the savings are from salaries and benefits. We budget for a certain number of people. When somebody quits, it takes a little while to replace them and things like that. We probably won't spend as much in overtime as we normally do. And in the benefits side, we're coming about $400,000 lower in health, dental, and vision, and that's for the same reason. People quit, they don't get replaced right away. People get divorced, change their benefits, and people go off, retirees go off, dependents go off, things like that. And we'll get into more of that as we go along. Okay. With COVID-19, there's a lot of, it's hard to project from COVID-19 because we've never been there before. Some of the expenditures we're watching are maintenance department supplies because we have to buy more cleaning supplies, and the need for technology equipment for our online learning if we need it. The revenue is a different story. There's a lot to watch there. Our real estate transfer tax, there's nobody selling homes right now. Earned income tax, we have no idea what that's going to be. I talked to Jordan Tax. They don't know yet, and it's probably going to take a couple months to figure out how bad it is. Interest on investments, the interest on investments is probably down $500,000 for a couple of reasons. One is interest rates dropped probably in October or November, and right now they're dropping further. Our activities fees and parking fees are lower because we're missing a lot of the school year. State revenue amounts may be changed as well as we go through these through the next couple of months. Any questions on that?
Buzzy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Buzzy, this is Ken Hager.
Hey, Ken.
Do you
Buzzy, this is Kim. Can we go ahead and go a minute?
Wait.
Hello?
Wait, Ken was talking first and then Kim. Go ahead, Ken.
sorry, do you anticipate, the same collection rates among the real estate as in previous years, or do you think delinquencies will be up?
Well, I think we got through most of the year before this happened. So I think our collection for this year will probably be pretty close to normal. But next year I reduced it for a 2021 budget. Other things, realty tax, earned income tax, those will take a hit this year.
Ms. Turner, go ahead.
My question next year is, will the Senate and the governor signing the bill that allows for real estate taxes to be paid without penalty through December 31st?
Well, I think it's just going to affect the timing and not so much the revenue. We'll probably get our money at face. We'll have the discount period where people always pay early. When we have the face period is going to go to December 31st. I think it usually goes to November 1st or October 31st. I can't remember. So I think the timing will be off, and I did lower the collection rate in draft 5 because I think some people are going to have difficulty paying their taxes, and it's probably going to be the same for delinquent taxes as well. Does that answer your question, Kim?
But just one question, still on the 2019-2020 school year. So this list of COVID-19 risks, were there any assumptions made for these in the numbers that you showed on the previous slide? You know, when we look at finishing up the year, and do we expect any impact on those projections based on these issues?
Well, I've already done the impact of these things on this year's projections.
Yeah, okay.
The real estate tax, I don't think it's going to be a big issue for this year. It will be for next year, but all of the others that you see there, that they have been impacted for this current year. Yes.
So I guess one other question, it's more of a general question. There are a lot of people who are assuming COVID-19, because we're not physically in the building, is going to save us money. That'd be an incorrect assumption, am I right?
That is correct. I mean, our buildings are open. Our utilities are probably going to be a little bit lower. I think our fuel usage I know our fuel usage is going to be a lot less because we're not driving buses. We're not driving maintenance vehicles, which we will start driving maintenance vehicles in a couple of weeks. But the big use of fuel are our school buses. They're not running right now. But everything else, I think our water bills have come down, water and sewage, but those aren't big numbers anyway. I think the biggest savings that we'll have is on fuel. You know, with the Act 13, we still have to pay the regular overtime that people would have normally made if we were working. So I don't think we'll save a whole lot there. But we will save, like I said, fuel's going to be the big saver.
Right, but we do also anticipate other expenses we normally don't add, as you showed also.
Well,
Do you think they'll kind of offset?
it may offset. I mean, right now we're not using a ton of cleaning supplies because the school's not open, so we don't have to clean it every day. And being that the governor has now closed schools for the rest of the year, we'll probably save on some supplies, but we have custodians going to be starting in another week or two doing summer cleaning. Summer cleanings uses a lot of supplies, and we also have to disinfect probably every night because people are going to be going into those buildings and working the next day. So we want to try to keep up on the disinfecting.
Plus the cleaning supplies are already budgeted, and that's.
The cleaning supplies are budgeted, so
Except for the disinfectant.
yeah, the disinfectant is going to raise the cleaning supplies, but I don't think it's a great deal.
I think what Mr. Nagel was also asking is, are there additional expenses this year that we wouldn't have anticipated?
I don't know if Ron has purchased anything technology-wise that we didn't plan on.
Right now, we're holding fairly
Yeah.
steady. We want to do some upgrades in this room,
Right.
and wanted to make this process a little better.
Right.
We've also, the disinfectant isn't cheap, so, I mean, we're buying that in big drums. We're buying rubber gloves, we're buying masks, because we have to provide them for the people who are going to be coming in and cleaning. Whether or not, Ken, the savings and the extra expenses are going to balance each other out. I don't know that, because like I said, we're saving a great deal on fuel right now. So I think we'll see a little bit of savings on expenses, net of the extra expenses.
Do we anticipate any, like, because of the way we're providing education, we may not be meeting the requirements under IEPs, like compensatory education, or?
Well, I haven't gotten into that with anybody. I think Lori and Sarah are doing everything they need to do to keep up on education. But whether or not we get a lawsuit regarding that, it's hard to tell. We could, but I honestly haven't really thought about that a whole lot. I think if it looks like we're going to have trouble, Lori and Sarah would go to Dr. D'Imperio, and they'd let me know if I needed to budget any extra.
And Ken, I think, this is Gerald Berger, I think every district's gonna get dinged from here, from time to time on stuff like that, so this probably only enhances, some issues down the road, but I think our, special services department is providing an outstanding program. I know they've been very responsive to parents and the kids, so minimizing those, future liabilities are probably pretty minimal at this point.
Yeah, well, I completely agree. Our special education services, Lori Sutton, Ms. Dr. Shu, everybody is working as hard as they can, but these are unprecedented times. And I've heard concerns from people in the special education arena, as you are there, that some needs may not be able to be fulfilled within the formats that we're provided. And I was just asking on a budgetary perspective whether or not that was anticipated.
I have not anticipated any.
That's a good question. I think it's, like I said, we're gonna get dinged here and there, especially when you start talking about like physical therapy or physical services, things like that. But, again, we're in uncharted territories and so we'll just see where it goes. But that is a good question and another question to ask.
We'll follow up with Lori and Sarah tomorrow and see if they have any input in that. Okay? Here's a summary with no millage increase. If we did not increase the millage at all, you see that the use of fund balance would be 9.6 million. But the rest of my presentation is based on raising the millage to the index plus the one exception that we received. Okay? And this is,
Maybe a little bit of clarification, what we voted on before on withdrawing the referendum, it doesn't mean that we're recommending a zero millage increase, but what the option that we could consider is increasing it to the maximum without going to a referendum. And I think that's what you're going to show next. This no millage, it's important because there has been some, information from the state legislature that this may be passed in an amendment sometime in the future where all school districts are required to freeze millage increases for this year. As you can see by your chart, this would be devastating. Again, because of the millage reduction last year put us in a terrible position financially, and the inability to regain any of that puts it at almost a $10 million deficit out of the, that we have to take out of the general fund balance, which is, terrible, devastating.
Hey Buzz, I do have a question. Our budgeted expenditures this year was 89 million and change.
mhm.
In draft 5, you're 92,951, which is almost $4 million in increased expenditures.
Yes.
Where is all that coming from? Because, I mean, I know that you've heard everybody speak tonight about where we are financially, but we're projecting to spend $4 million more this year.
Yeah, and you know, mostly, just like every other year, it's increases in salaries and benefits, retirement being a big one. But we'll,
But we split that with the state though, right?
we do, but it's still a big increase.
650,000 roughly.
It's probably, yeah, 650 to 700.
I was looking at the numbers.
But we will talk about that in some later slides. I'll go over the expenses and you'll see what has increased.
Yeah, Buzzy has a good breakdown of year-over-year increases, and, you know, there are absolutely some areas that we can get very conservative on, especially replacing some of the, retiring staff. And, you know, there's ways to bring it down some, but that's only about $1.5 million, I think, for this total amount.
I know I jumped ahead a little bit, but, on your expenditures budget where you show the pie chart, which you'll show in a couple minutes, we're now over 77% of our budget to salaries and benefits. That's an untenable number. We can't continue in that trend. I mean, pretty soon we'll be educating our students on the rest of our education budget will be almost 20%
Right.
of what we have to spend. So at some point, that number has to level out or change. We can't continue on that path.
I agree.
I don't think that that's a tenable position.
Oh, Russ, it is a people perk of business. So it's not like we're developing construction trucks and buildings and making money off of that. So I understand your concerns about that. But we also have a lot of federal and state guidelines that we have to adhere to. And we're also looking out for the students who are, of our district. So let's just keep an open mind as we go forward through Buzzy's projection.
The other point is Mr. McGregor is making is a lot of our teachers are on the higher end, and we have a seasoned staff here too. That's going to increase the salaries.
This is a more likely scenario, is the summary with the index and exceptions. And you can see that the the deficit is 6.7 million. The millage rate would be 21.64. That may be adjusted a little bit as I go through the assessed value and things like that. We may have to adjust the index, the exception. Because the exception is given to us in a dollar amount, not a millage amount. So I have to calculate the millage based on that dollar amount that we receive. I think it's 284,000. So, okay. Total expenditures 92.9 million, and you see that, like Russ said, salaries and benefits are 77%. Purchase services, which are the 300, 400, and 500 object codes, is almost 10%. Supplies is 4%. Equipment's 1.2, and our debt service is 8.33. Okay, our expenditure changes. Go ahead.
Fonzie.
Yes.
Just a second, two questions I have. I know it's kind of water under the bridge, but, I was wondering, with us taking the referendum off in the previous meeting minutes ago, what would have our deficit been had we pursued referendum again and passed?
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I added that back in there, but let me see if I have it in here. I thought I added that slide back in. I did not. With the referendum, I think the deficit would have been 2.6 million, but I will make sure that gets into the next.
So okay, I just wanted to clarify, with the referendum, we still would have been operating at a deficit. So with the Act 1 index and the exception, it's a larger deficit. It's not going from a positive to a deficit.
That's true. I will give you the referendum summary next time. I'm sorry, I thought I put it in there, so. Okay?
That's no problem. And on to the pie chart, I'm sorry. Since Russ had brought up the 77.01% on salaries and benefits on the pie chart, I felt a need to address that also. Largely we've had roughly $3 million increases in salaries and benefits over the last several years with no increase in millage, and no increase in staff. We had been shrinking staff through attrition largely. But that number has still been growing because to Kim's point, people get further in their steps, contract raises, and Peaser's obligations have risen also. So that's not necessarily raising because of additional staff. We've been shrinking staff, but that number's been growing traditionally over several years. Am I correct in that?
Are you correct in what?
That we've been shrinking staff.
We have been not replacing teachers.
And that number has been growing regardless.
Well, we shrink staff, but there's contractual increases that are built into all the contracts as well. So the staff has gone down, but salaries will probably never decrease, I wouldn't think, because the retirements that are not replaced do not cover the contractual increases.
My argument wasn't about increasing or decreasing staff, it was about the percentage of our budget.
Yeah.
We have contracts that we're working on or we'll have coming up in the near future, they're gonna make that number go even higher. So we can talk about it, we can understand that we have high-step teachers and we have good quality staff, but at some point we have to address that number, that percentage. We just can't run a school district on
has risen to 77%, largely while we have shrunk staff over several years. How do we address that number?
I think that, I believe that that's actually what Russ is saying. So you said it very well, Mr. Nagel. It's a problem that has been around for a long time. We just have to continue to be aware of it and try to do our best.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna talk about the actual number at this point, but, you know, this is a pie chart that shows percentage. I think there's another way to look at it. You know, if we say that, you know, as a part of our overall budget, we wanna shrink the percentage that we invest in, you know, teachers and aides and, you know, all the other people in the district, what other piece of the pie would you increase? You know, would we increase more in facilities? You know, my point is, it's probably, I don't think it's bad. I think it shows that we have 77% shows that we have an efficient, you know, efficient operations and everything outside of the people cost in terms of, you know, facilities and all the other things we invest in. So, you know, I don't think it's bad. You know, like Darren said, you know, people are the core of the education business, and being able to invest a higher percentage in the people, I think, produces a better educational product.
As long as you can maintain your physical plants under your current budget. There's more to education than just the teachers. Replacing buses, buildings, technology, all those things go into it. I'm 100% behind our staff. I'm not asking anybody to reduce staff, but I think we need to look bigger. We're looking too narrow. We need to look bigger, that's all.
So, Russ, I guess that's kind of where I was going with this. The only way to reduce that percentage is if we've already shrunk in our staff to a dangerous level, is to increase all of the other pieces of the pie. Invest in our aging schools. And I've addressed this over the last several years. The average age of our school, I believe now, is 46 years old. And if we take the high school act, which is only 8.5 years old, it jumps up to 52 years old. So I understand your point on the percentage and on making sure we maintain all of the other parts. But again, we're under a strained fiscal situation that was imposed upon us. And we've already shrunk staff in most places to dangerously low levels, in my opinion. That's why I was asking, how do we shrink at 77%? Other than to increase investments in the other areas.
I'm afraid that because of the deficit projected in the future, this conversation might not even, I mean, we might have to actually do some drastic things here in the future because of the deficit that is projected in the next couple of years. So I think it's a conversation that we have to keep having, but there's also a reality regarding, as I mentioned, programming and staffing in the future because of, you know, can't operate in the negative. So if you wanted to continue with the next slide,
Yep.
please, Mr. President.
Okay, the expenditure changes, we changed this up a little bit of what we've done in the past, so that the change is the difference between the 1920 projected and the draft 5 amounts. You see that the salaries went up about 3.4 million, benefits 2.3 million, 300s, which is a lot of professional services and things like that, is 303,000. The 400s, that's an area that I got to pay more attention to in the next draft because it went down 172,000. 500s, which is a lot of utilities and things like that, it increased almost 276,000. Supplies have increased 907,000, and one of the reasons while I'm talking about these things and explaining them to you, things come to mind. So the decrease in 400s is due to us changing our software renewals from the 400 accounts to the 600 accounts. So that explains why the 600 accounts went up by $907,000. The 700's down by $372,000. I can't remember everything we bought this year. I'll look at it though. But $1.1 million is what we normally budget for equipment. The 800s and 900s are where most of our transfers to the capital reserve fund and our debt service makes up the bulk of those two accounts. One went down 184,000. The other one went up 129, and I think the difference there is between bond payments. We pay less interest and more principal as we go on in the bond payment schedule. Any questions on that?
So, Buzzy, on line 600, you mentioned that the 907 is due to renegotiating some software contracts. Does that mean that this are these perpetual licenses, so we pay them this year and we pay a smaller fraction next year? Or is this are these lease payments that continue on at the same rate? So this, this increase of 907 is something that we're going to see, for the next, N number of years.
It's not a renegotiation of our software agreements. It is our agreements. The agreements, our software used to be charged in the 400 category. That went down 172,000. The 600 and the software is now charged to the 600 accounts, which it makes up part of the reason that increased, not all of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we added 240,000 maybe for textbooks in the 600s. So that's another reason it went up 900,000.
Okay.
And all these numbers, just so you know, are worth talking about in future meetings and reevaluating them as well. So, I mean, that's something that.
Just one other question I had on the 100 and 200 accounts under salaries and benefits. You had provided the board, and this could be shared publicly because it is, all of the positions, but there was a number of, positions where teachers are retiring. We factored in, other org changes that we're looking at. And when I totaled up that list, I thought that the salary and benefits was around 1.5 million to 2 million. But the change here is around 5.5 million. Do you know, what does that do? Is that due to just people moving through the steps in the salary scale, or what's driving a lot of that increase?
Well, the increase in teacher salaries goes up and down every year. I mean, you might have 15 people going through the jump step one year, and you have none the next year, and that makes a really big difference because the jump step's kind of large. That makes a big difference. But this year, this 3.3 million also includes a couple of the contracts that aren't negotiated at this time. So I put in there what I think we'll need. Whether or not we need it is yet to be determined.
Did you understand what he said, Mr. Christian?
Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of a hard time hearing him just because of the speaker, but yeah, I think so.
He said that some of those figures are estimates based on contracts that have not been negotiated yet.
Okay, and that's where that is. Okay, perfect.
Was Kenneth going to ask a question?
So, one question I had back on the personnel side of things, 100 and 200 are salaries and benefits. does that include our contracted personnel, like social workers or the food service
No,
contract, any of that?
no. We don't budget anything for our food service people. We contract with Mets. They provide us every year with a guarantee of either break even, or they'll tell you we need to increase pricing. But we very seldom have to put any money into our cafeteria fund. The biggest reason we'd put money in the cafeteria fund is if we need to buy new ovens or refurbish a kitchen. Those are not part of the contract with Mets. That's our equipment. We have to maintain it. Okay?
What about social workers or anybody else that we contract, like mental health contracts that we have contracting,
Yep.
hourly or other agencies?
Those are in the 300. Those are the 300 line items, along with some tuition. There's some tuition in the 500s as well.
Okay, so that would actually overall increase our percentage that goes towards personnel costs.
No,
Okay,
the social workers do not increase our personnel costs. They're in the 300s. The only thing that is in the
well,
calculation for personnel costs is the 100s and 200s.
So if
yes, I'm sorry, I misstated that. What I meant is if we were to have guidance counselors in place of the social workers, or if, I guess what I'm trying to say is if we were to add all of the bodies that we hire and pay to provide services for our school, that would increase that overall percentage if we added that in.
Of the
You
set
understand
of,
what I'm saying?
yes, of the personnel cost, it would, yes.
Right. I wasn't saying that it does increase it, I was saying if we take that into consideration, it brings that 77% up a little higher also.
It would.
And Ken, I think that depends on what kind of services we're providing. If we add an extra social worker, do we have a contract through with Southwood to provide services for children with mental health disabilities and concerns? That goes, and Buzzy, correct me if I'm wrong, that goes under the 300 level.
That is correct.
Right, and so, and Ken brings up a good point that things aren't going to get easier at all as we move forward. We need a lot of support for a lot of students, and Russ, I do agree with you that we have to look at everything and find out where we can manage our finances to address all of these needs. But it's not, honestly, it's not going to be through personnel. Now, through attrition it may be, but it's not going to be through cuts. And I know you said you're not looking at cuts, but Ken's onto a good point. We talked about a lot for the last 2 years that we need to provide a lot of those 300 services to the children of our district. And so, but we can move on, Buzzy. Thank you.
Okay. The next slide is salary changes, and you can see the difference there. Administrative is $360,000 and down there. I'm not going to read all those. If you have any questions about any of them, just let me know.
So I asked you earlier about savings on salaries. I understand we have to pay all of our employees' salaries and overtime, expected overtime.
Yes.
Are we saving any money on substitutes?
Well, we would be saving money on substitutes, you're correct, yes. But
No.
but if we have teachers that,
Is it anything notable?
honestly, Ken, I haven't looked into that yet, and I think we probably won't know that until the end of April, probably. So when I do my April projection, that'd be a better barometer for that.
And I also see about a $600,000 disparity between the projected and the budgeted for paraprofessionals. Could you maybe touch on that a little bit? Why there's that big of a disparity?
Well, I budget every year for what increases I think that are going to be granted, and if we don't pay them, we haven't paid them yet. So that's the difference.
That makes sense.
Okay. Okay, anything else on that slide? Okay, salary changes on the administrative one is adjustments for contracts, 3 resignations with replacements, 2 added assistant high school associate principal, assistant superintendent, HR coordinator, 8 resigning teachers are being replaced, and that should say draft 5, and 3 additional teaching positions that I was asked in January to add. So that may be a place where you guys can talk about. Okay? Move to the next one. The employee benefits.
I was just gonna make a comment on that slide. You know, that previous slide that you're on, Buzzy, that one. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of action items for us there, or at least for the administration to come up with some scenarios. And, I think, you know, we're gonna have to make a decision, especially in light of the current budget. You know, how many of these positions do we add? How many do we, you know, replace with some of the resigning teachers? And so, can we have an action item out of here that maybe the administration comes up with some proposals, and, you know, maybe 3 of them? You know, we know what the cost is, but what's the impact to education and the district operations if we do none of this on this slide? You know, if we do half, you know, kind of the medium approach, and then if we do it all. I think we know what the costs are if we do those different scenarios, but what we don't know is how critical replacing some of these positions are to, you know, the educational performance and, you know, the operations of the district.
Barry Christensen, this is Joe, Dr. Imperio. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
The district has done a pretty thorough review of that year after year, and we're in the process of pretty much following that same model. We've been working on that, I would say, seriously for the past 2 weeks, and Janet and Beth have been working with the principals. I've been sitting in, and we should have sometime in the near future a proposal for the board as to what some of these changes will look like. The key factor, and I think McGregor mentioned it, is maintaining the quality, maintaining sustainability, school district and service to the children, but yet being able to look at other ways of providing those services. So we are in the midst of doing what I would call some very serious planning in those areas.
Okay. Do you know, would that, if we do a review of the budget again, say in the May meeting, do we think we'll have those proposals, so there's different scenarios? You know, obviously we need to lock this in before we approve the budget.
I believe that we will. We are looking at, Janet and Beth are looking at working with the principals, and I'll call it nailing down what I would call a preliminary proposal, which they may be prepared to review with me on either Thursday or Monday. So those
we're not going to pass the budget in May. We have to pass a tentative budget at the first meeting in May, because we have to have 30 days between the tentative budget and the final budget. If we do it at the second meeting in May, we won't have the 30 days, and we'd have to do a special meeting. So first meeting in, we can make changes. It doesn't mean it's final. We just have to pass the tentative budget in the first meeting in May. Okay? Okay, employee benefits. Retirement, you see, is the big one there again, 1.26 million. For that, and you'll see on the revenue side that the net effect of that, the retirement is half of that. So we'll get 640,000, maybe 635,000 retirement in revenue increase. So it looks bad, which it is bad, but it's only half that bad. Okay? You good? Okay, health, dental, and vision. Health rates increased by 3.5%, dental 6%, and vision 7%. It's an increase of 654,000, and I based the health increase on the budgeted final 1920 cost. And it may need adjusted next time, but towards the end of May, I should have our actual final costs rather than a projected. And it includes about $140,000 in health care for the new positions, which that, again, is negotiable. The retirement, I basically already...
Leslie, just one question, and not to delay this too long, but on the health, dental, vision, and, those benefits, haven't those been fairly flat for the last couple of years? Is that a recent increase?
They have been fairly flat over the last few years, and because I changed it from using what was budgeted to what we actually spent. We used to spend $600,000 and $700,000 less than what we budgeted in those years. So that's why I changed it to calculate it a different way. Now we're probably $200,000 or $300,000 difference, which, I mean, we want to be that. You want to be that. I mean, to be $200,000 different on $8 million expenditure is right where you want to be. Yeah. Okay?
Right.
You see these, our rate increased from 34.29 to 34.51 this year. I don't know if the state can adjust that again since what happened. Those rates are set in December. That was long before the virus. I do expect the future rates to go up a lot higher, and they're predicting up over 40 because the virus just did. They get a lot of their revenue from the stock market, and it took a big dive. So these rates could change. I don't think they'll change this year to 2021, but I don't know if they can't or if they can. But the other ones are going to change. Okay,
So, Buzzy, this is Kim. Can I go back to that slide for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
And that was my question. So you're telling me the 2021 school rate cannot change based on the last 60 days in the stock market. My hope is we're not in, we're in kind of a controlled bond market there, but you're telling me is the rates for 21, 22 could jump from 34 to 40?
I don't think they'll jump up that much. They have jumped up 4 percentage points in the past, but the last couple of years they've slowed down. What I said was I don't know if the state can change the 2021 rate or not. They did it in December. I don't think they will, but I don't know that. But those rates you see for 2021 to 2024, those I think will go up higher than what they're projecting right now. Okay? This is just for your pleasure, I guess. You see, you see in '05, our retirement rate, our retirement expense was under $2 million in '05. And this year it's budgeted for a little over 14 million. So that's a lot of the increases that Bethel Park has seen in the past few years. So
Buzzy, to that point, over or around half of it, or maybe a little over half of it, actually has been accrued in the last 5 years. $6 to $7 million within the last 5 years increase.
yeah, it's gone up a lot, Ken. I don't know the exact number, but but it has gone up. You know, it started in 2012, and you see the steep incline there. And it started to level off a little bit the last couple years, but I have a feeling that it's gonna jump up a lot higher than the last couple years.
Well, that's exactly what I was trying to get at. So you do expect it's going to jump up?
I do.
That incline is going to go a little steeper?
Yes, I do. And that's because of the virus. I think they were doing decent up until that, just like everybody else. Okay. Purchase professional property and technical service. These are the objects 3, 400, 500. I lump them together as an increase of 406,000. A lot of this is tuition, legal fees, auditing fees, things like that. Sanitation. I think our water bills are in there. Utilities are spread out. The state tells us where to account for things, and you think all the utilities would be in the same spot, but they're not. So it just has a lot of different things, and I can send you, if you guys want to know, I can send you the breakdown of all those if you would like. Supplies, 3.7 million. The increase is due to a change in software renewals and adding money for books. Also in there is general supplies, uniforms, fuel, and like I said, some utilities. Okay?
So even though you thought that fuel would be a savings this year, this budget has actually gone up 900,000 in this area where fuel would be.
Fuel is included in that, so I expect in this budget that school will go back to school in August. Okay. Okay.
Buzzy, how long, our fuel contracts are multiple years?
We are in the consortium with the AIU. We have multiple years, but every year they follow it and they lock in a good price, which we locked in a really good price for 2021, but we haven't used up 1920s yet. So the first couple of months of 2021 are going to be at a higher rate until we use up what we were supposed to use up for the contract. Yeah. Okay, equipment is decreased to 372,000. That's based on a projected for this year. This includes technology equipment, maintenance, a couple maintenance vans. We don't charge buses here anymore. We used to. We transfer money to capital reserve fund and we buy our buses out of there. Other financing uses, a decrease of 55,000. That's from the bond payment schedule. We have that schedule. It's scheduled out till the bonds are paid off, so we know what that's going to be every year. And this also includes, like I said, transfer to the other funds, which is basically the capital reserve fund. Revenue, 86.2 million, and this is with the index plus the exception. You see that we wait, hold on. The pre,
Buzzy, on this one, we're forecasting the local revenue to go up almost 4%. I think that what is it, the index plus exception is about, what, 2.5%, 2.75% or so, something like that. Is the rest associated with increasing property values?
the assessed value has increased a lot over the past 2 years. And we'll go over what the changes are in more detail on the next couple of slides.
Okay.
Okay? The total revenue is 86.2 million, and almost 71% is local, 29% is state, and 0.39% is federal. Okay?
So Russ, that's the percentage we need to shrink.
Yeah,
Now, what we need to do is get the state to give us our 50/50 split.
Yeah.
instead of 70/30.
right.
That's
Right.
right.
That's the problem.
Okay, you see that the real estate tax is the big thing that changed there. 1.7 million, that's due to the increase in the index plus the exception. We decreased our collection rate for that as well. So right now, I'm pretty confident that we're okay. But like I said, I talked to Jordan Tax. They don't have a recommendation on what we should look for. That could be high, that could be low. So I don't know. It's a tough year to do a budget. Then all the other taxes, you see from the 1920 budget, we budgeted $5,050,000 in earned income. This year, or for next year, it's down to 4.6 million. And I do think that we're not going to make the $5 million this year. That was increasing at a really good rate for the last few years, and this year really took it down. My projection could be wrong, though. I don't know. I don't. You know, Connie was looking into the unemployment rate in Bethel Park for me, and we still don't have that yet. So that's a hard number to budget. You see, the interest revenue was $1,002,000. I'm projecting $742,000, and in draft 5, I have budgeted $750,000. That may need to be adjusted as well, and we'll continue to work on that. There's no other really big changes in that. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. Like I said, I've made several changes since the original presentation. Adjusted the collection percentage for real estate tax. I've also adjusted EIT, which is earned income tax, delinquent taxes, interest revenue, and IDEA. I adjusted IDE based on what we're projected to get for this year. Yeah.
I'm sorry, can we go back to the question on the previous slide? The rental facilities. Which budget 175, you projected 110.
Well, we've,
1920.
yes, go ahead.
That's with us being shut down.
Yeah, and the last few months of the year, like April, May, and June, are really big for rentals because all the dance companies want to do that. We lost a lot. Plus, we lost probably $30,000 on canceling the IMS play and the high school play. So those were big cuts as well. That's not in rental facilities, but that, yeah. So Jess was doing a really good job. Jessica Koval, our auditorium coordinator, doing a really good job getting new people in here to do things, but we had to cancel everything. So everything's canceled up to June 30th. Some of them are asking to come in July, which we're allowing them to reserve it for now, but who knows whether we're going to be able to let them.
So then, you projected budget 175, we get to take our salary off of that.
Well, I budgeted 175 in revenue for that. That, well, her salary's not that, yeah, it's 55, I believe.
I know that, that we got the school.
Yeah, right. Okay. We already talked about this slide. State revenue. We're projected to get 9.2 million, almost 9.3 million from the state for this year. You know, so I budgeted that for next year. The basic ed and the special ed subsidy, I'd be surprised if they give us that much, but I don't know that yet. They haven't said anything, to be honest with you, but I don't know how they are going to be able to give us an increase for next year. We read.
$484,000 grant, what was that for? I assume that's a one-time grant?
Which one you on, Ken?
Other school grades.
Oh, we get other school, 84,000 of that is, you know, different grants. We get, you know, security, things like that. The 400,000 was for the buses. Remember when we did the buses? We spent 800,000, we got 400,000 back. We just got that in March. So that number, we can't budget for again.
So you're assuming that the subsidies from the state won't decrease or increase, they just will stay the same?
They're going to stay the same.
That's your projection?
Yes. Hopefully we'll get updates before the June final budget. Okay. Go ahead, Ken.
So the 400,000 in the state revenue there, that was accounted for in our total revenues that we did not anticipate for our last budget, correct?
We did not put that in there for the 1920 budget because we didn't know when it would come.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, and this just tells you exactly what I did, and we talked about that already. Does anybody have any questions? Federal revenue, we budgeted the same as we had in 1920. We're projected to get about $10,000 more, but I kept the budget the same for next year. Because sometimes we don't know the federal numbers sometimes till August or September of what we're actually going to get.
You mean $10,000?
Yeah.
Budgeted 30, you would expect we're gonna get 10,000 less?
Yes, I'm sorry, that's in it. It's the opposite way. That should be $10,000 less, correct. Other revenue is projected to be 91,000.
Okay, Chairman McGregor, can you go back to the last slide? Why do you expect that we're gonna go down in access admin fees?
The access admin fees I think this was the first year that we got that, and I'm not confident that we'll get it again, but I don't know that, Darren. That's something else that we got to, I'll talk to Sharon about and see if she thinks we'll get that again, then we'll add it back in.
Now, are we talking about like personal PCA, people who are doing one-on-one services and within the special ed environment?
Honestly, Darren, to be honest with you, I don't know. That's why I said I got to talk to Sharon.
We need to look into that. I think those access fees, and if I'm mistaken, maybe Lori Sutton or Dr. Shu could email all of us and explain it a little bit better. But I think that every district, they do write-ups on a weekly basis for those fees.
Well, that,
It's zero there.
yeah, that's not
Deserved.
what we can bill for access. These are access admin fees. We don't, We don't bill as much for access as most schools do. And we could talk about that. That would be an executive session discussion.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
Sounds good. I think we should, at least address it.
Okay. The 91,000 in other revenue, the 48,000 of that was a transfer from the construction fund. We closed the construction fund, and that construction fund was basically the high school, along with a little bit of work at IMS. And we closed that account this year and transferred what was owed to the general fund. So that is done. We had to sell a fixed asset, $4,500,000. That could have been the old buses, but I don't remember. And we had proceeds from insurance claims of $39,139. Okay. The general fund. This is the fund balance projection. You see all the numbers listed there. The non-spendable prepaid account of $808,000. We pay our July health insurance bill in June, so that's always a prepaid expense for us. That number will definitely change after the audit's done. And if you look at any unassigned fund balance, you'll see a negative amount of $1,289 and $1,289,891. The amount above that, right above it, is the same amount. If we're going to balance the budget with $6.7 million, then that's what I need in the fund balance to balance that. So $6.7 million of our fund balance, if nothing changes, will be assigned to next year's budget. The 2.6 million is our projected loss for this year, and that leaves us unassigned fund balance of $714,000. What I would recommend for June 30th of 2021 is to reduce the committed for PESERS and reduce the committed for retiree health by a total of $8 million. And then if you plug in the 6.7 million loss, that's if everything went exactly the way it was, it leaves us a fund balance of 1.9 million, unassigned fund balance. That's a lot of information, and it's probably hard for most people to get, but I wanted to show it to you. Basically, what you can pay attention to is the 6/30/2020 balance, and you see that our fund balance is 22 million. And look at the 6/30/2021 balance, and you'll see that our fund balance, the unassigned is 1.9 million, and the total fund balance at that point in time will be $15,672,693. If anybody has...
It's Darren McGregor. Now, it's been argued by certain members of the community that we are in a great position in terms of fund balances. How does the unassigned balance of 1.983 million stack up to state recommended percentages?
Well, the state recommended percentages are, they recommend between 5 and 8% for an unassigned fund balance. They don't have anything for other fund balances, just the unassigned. And if you wanted to,
Right, and so where do we stick with this?
geez, I didn't do that, Darren, to be honest with you. It's probably down to 2 or 3%, I would guess. But I mean, if
So we're way beyond the 8, but we're this one up.
yeah, the 8% comes in where you can't. If your unassigned fund balance is more than 8% of the next year's budget, you're not allowed to raise taxes. So that's where that comes in. But they recommend to have an unassigned fund balance of 5 to 8%, which you could do by reducing, instead of reducing the PESers and the retiree health by $4 million each, you could do $5 or $6 million each. That'd be up to the board. And you could even zero those two out and put it in the unassigned balance if you wanted to. There's a lot of different things you can do.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm
Yeah.
just looking at those numbers, and it's quite alarming.
It's not, yeah.
So maybe another angle on that is, we have the word like non-spend and we have committed. How much of this is actually committed?
Well,
It's not from just a placeholder standpoint in the budget, like it's earmarked. How much of this have we committed to pay in future years?
Well, the non-spend amounts, you can't do anything with those. The auditors set those, and you can't change those. The committed for tax refunds, the committed for PESers, and the committed for retiree health are all, even though they're labeled as committed, you can change those by majority vote of the board. The committed for
We're not aware of a payment obligation at this point
No.
in any of those areas.
No, there is
Now,
not.
If you look at PESers, you could look at the curve and it seems to be flattening out, and we should be able to support future year increases in the operating budget, because it's not going up that much. So
No.
that's maybe an area that.
Barry, he just told us it's gonna go up dramatically, probably.
Oh, on the PESers.
Yeah, that's my opinion. That's not fact,
Because
so.
they've used they mostly have invested in stocks, and with this downturn.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's
So,
gonna be horrible.
yeah, so that's an area that, you're right, we will have to. Okay, so I guess, my point was to get at that, even though we're looking at, 15 million in the general fund, it's not really 15 million, okay? And there's a high percentage of it that, like, I was gonna focus on the retiree healthcare. Do we have a view in the, over the future years of who may be eligible for retirement and how much expense increase we may see in that area that we can't sustain in the regular operating budget?
This committed retiree health benefits, we put that in there to help out our upper level financial statements, which we don't use in a day-to-day operations. Those are used for when you want to go out and get a bond issue and things like that. So the committed for the PESers and the committed for the retiree health, I will tell you that those are available for you guys to use if you choose to use them. The assigned is something you cannot touch. The non-spendable for inventory and the non-spendable for prepaid you cannot touch. The committed for tax refunds, I believe you can. And all of the committed, except the committed for severances, you can use at your discretion.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we look at this, I think, based on what you said before, PESers is one we probably also don't want to touch with some of the impending increases that we may think will happen. So the actual fund balance to supplement our operating budget is really the bottom 5 rows, right? Unsigned, assigned,
No.
committed retiree health care, committed services.
You can use the committed for PESers as well. Those things, the committed for retiree health and the committed for PESers, we budget for and we pay every year as we go. That money was put there to help our upper level financial statements. They really don't have much to do with the day-to-day operations of the school district. So you can use those fund balance monies.
Regardless, though,
Correct.
Exactly.
Regardless of which ones we can use or can't use, we'll be depleting it soon. So that's why when I read the whole information about the referendum, it's probable that we will be asking to put that back on in a couple of years because we don't want to go so far below that we can't recover. But we are also, the public, we are committed to looking so carefully at the budget and seeing where we don't have to increase and where we can, make it revenue neutral and different things like that. But we will, over the next year, have to make some very difficult decisions that hopefully will be driven by a strategic plan that we will start working on in the summertime.
Correct.
Yeah, anytime you're drawing money out of the general fund, we're obviously not in a sustainable position. And drawing out, 6.7 million is absolutely not sustainable until we can figure out how to balance this with either cutting costs or, increasing revenue. It's not a great picture.
Right. It's not a great picture, but it's a picture that we can live with this year and work from in the future. And as I said, we really are committed to creating a strategic plan involving all of the community and everybody and looking at 5 to 10 years down the way with facilities and staffing and programming and buildings and everything. So it's going to be a very busy year after June 30th.
Correct.
Just, one thing, and maybe we can discuss at the end, but this may be another action item or a set a goal, is that, somehow we should be coming up with plans to, maybe cut at least $2.5 million off of this somehow. And we'll work on that over the next couple of years to cut that out of the deficit, okay? Otherwise, if we come to 3 years from now and we're out of money and we have to cut $7 million out of the budget in 1 year, that's gonna be very painful. I think we, at least, for action items across the board and administration, we need to come up with some plans to figure out how do we at least take a third of this deficit out of our budget this year. And I don't think, through the referendum, the revenue side isn't the solution. It's gonna have to come from the cost side.
I'm glad you're financial chair.
I'll be the person on the board. It's just the reality. I mean, I have looked at some of the, estimating what happens in the future, and of course, not every prediction is accurate, but it doesn't get a lot better really, because I think that, previously after the millage was cut, there was a lot of justification for it, that you can just keep raising, to the index every year, but the problem is costs also go up, okay? Even if we didn't invest in anything new, no new people, no new anything, costs still go up. And, so it is gonna take a long time to get out of a deficit situation, a lot longer time than we have money in the general fund. So that's why I'm just saying, we, as a board, before our next meeting in May, across the board administration, we've got to come up with some scenarios that would allow us to cut probably a third of that deficit off the budget. Otherwise, my point is, we can't wait for 3 years and cut $7 million out of the budget in 1 year. It's going to be a travesty.
Right.
Okay. Capital Reserve Fund. I still have in the budget transfer money to the Capital Reserve Fund, and you see all those line items. The June 30th, 2020 budget, Capital Reserve Fund should be about $10 million. The balance at 2021 should be $10.8 million. So unless the board wants to change these, that should be about what it'll end up being. Less whatever jobs we do.
So that $778,000, is that what we would put into the capital reserve based on what we have left this year? Is that-
Well, we will put in 1920, we're going to transfer $668,400, and we make $200,000 on interest. If you look in the bottom couple of rows and the second column, it says revenue 1920. If you go down there, we're going to transfer $100,000 for the turf, $5,000 for band uniforms, $395,000 for buses, $78,400 for copiers, $90,000 for paving. We will generate $200,000 in interest, and so that makes the revenue for 1920 $868,000. The expenses for 1920 was $200,000, and I believe that was to finish up the high school project. So we should have 10.1 million as a fund balance at June 30th of this year.
So is it possible to this year not put any of that money into capital reserve because of our difficulties right now?
You can not put any in the capital reserve for as long as you want. I mean, if you don't want to do it this year, we don't have to. If you want to take it out of the budget for next year, you can.
So we could take that 868,000 out, not put it in capital
Well, it would be 668 because the 200,000 it's interest.
interest on that.
Mm-hmm.
So of those, 5 items, is there anything that you would consider absolutely necessary?
I think the $395,000 for buses is absolutely necessary.
Okay, but the other items might be able to.
You don't have to, right? No, we don't do that. We pay that from the general fund. And you could do the same thing the next year.
If we put in the 300, can I ask?
Yeah,
If we put in the 395,000 for buses, that would give us about $500,000 that would be in the unassigned fund balance to move forward for next year, correct?
ask that again, Kim?
The bus, he's recommending that we keep the bus money and transfer that into capital reserve. It's the other monies that we could put into the unassigned fund balance, like the $100,000 for stadium turf, the band uniforms, the copiers, and the paving. Those are the 4 items that he said would be, we could easily, not easily, but we wouldn't have to put those into capital reserve. Because once you put the money in capital reserve, you can't touch it.
You can't bring it back,
You
but,
can't bring it back.
right.
So we recommend,
That was my understanding.
right, he recommends that we keep the money in
So-
there for the buses.
Okay, and then, so roughly we would have
200 and,
No, the 200,000.
375,000
Plus, we wouldn't get the full 200.
No, you can't.
that would go into the unassigned funds to drop the amount of money that we would be short for next year's budget, correct? For this year's budget.
Would be closer to 200,000 total budget to.
There'd be about 200,000 total, a little less than that probably.
What is the interest?
Can you repeat that, because I couldn't hear.
Yeah, you can't cut the interest.
That's 183.
yeah.
It would be 568 minus 395, basically. Or 668, I'm sorry.
It'd be 270.
Unless we're gonna make a decision, to, you know, let the turf go, you know, add another year onto the life of the turf, or, you know, I know we took buses off, but, you know, reduce the number of buses, we're fine. I know we took that off the table, wasn't moving it out, but I wouldn't mess with these because represents actually a clearer picture in my mind than the general fund, where we have a lot of placeholders, but, you know, nothing is really committed except for those few lines at the top in the general fund. These represent real investments, I believe, or real expenses, I believe, that are gonna happen at some point in the future. So unless we're gonna change what we plan on spending, I wouldn't mess with this transfer.
That's where I was going, Barry. I mean, if we can't use the interest, and we're gonna keep the buses, we're only looking at $175,000. And with where we're saying we're short, that's not,
Yeah, I mean,
that's not stopping the bleeding. And then it's not gonna stop the bleeding. You're not
Yeah,
gonna say,
right, and if we know we're gonna spend this, you know, like in the case of the general fund, we had, you know, earmarks for PSERS and retiree healthcare. We don't ever know if we're gonna spend that money on those expenses. But here we know, every one of these line items, we're gonna spend this money on these expenses, so I wouldn't delay funding this as a way to superficially increase the general fund budget. I don't think that makes any sense. I think that we need to continue moving money in here because we know we're gonna have to spend it on these items.
right, I mean, if we were closer to the 778, we may be having a little bit of a different conversation, but we're talking about $173,000.
Yeah,
And they bring a $92,000 budget.
Yeah, but even if we were looking at saving, you know, 778, you know, I still wouldn't recommend not shifting money over to capital reserve unless we said we were only gonna buy half as many buses in the future, okay? Because they, like, again, they represent real expenses.
Agreed. That's why I was going, I just wanted to clarify before I kind of made that comment.
Yeah.
That there was clarification on number.
I understand what the two of you are saying, and more clearly than I did before. It actually though is 273,000, not 150. But still, I understand what you're saying, so let's just move forward.
Okay. Okay, what next? We'll continue to work on the budgets and adjust the drafts. They change all the time. Salaries, health insurance won't change a whole lot now. Medical services expense, tuition expense, retirements and staffing changes, revenue. We'll provide, if I have an update for next week, I'll give it to you. But we want to have an update on May 19th, and that's the date we want to pass the tentative budget. We'll have one May 26th, and adopt a proposed final budget at the May 19th committee meeting, pass the final budget at the June 23rd meeting. So that's all I have in this. I will add the referendum slide, like I thought I did, to the next one, and whatever adjustments we make, we'll update you. I don't go over the whole thing again. I just give you the changes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Buzzy, very good presentation. Terrible news, but very good presentation.
Yeah, it's not good news, but yeah, it's just not good
We
news.
appreciate all the work you put into this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Buzzy.
You're welcome.
Very good.
Okay.
We might all have to refresh.
Thanks.
Okay, any public comments on any of the agenda? Well, it's a committee meeting, so we don't have any comments. Committee reports, we usually do that at a regular meeting too, right?
Yep.
So, Vince, do you want to walk us through curriculum committee? These this on the consent agenda next week, which would be the agenda that, we would pass at the beginning of the meeting, which would have all those items that we don't have to have any discussion about. So for each one, I will ask you that after, we talk about it. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So under curriculum committee, we have 3 items, and we will take 1 item at each time. So number 1 is professional development. And under professional development, the Board of School Directors approves the administration's recommendation to permit Christine Robb and Alexander Winchell to attend the AP Summer
The elevator maintenance we've had with this group for quite a long time, and the price, I believe, is very close to what we have been paying, and we can lock it in for 4 years at that price, and we're very, very satisfied with Hedrick. These are service agreements, and they don't have to be bid unless the board would like us to bid them.
Okay, well, I understand your position with the elevator maintenance and service. It's, largely, you need it when you need it. You don't, they're not providing a service all the time.
Well, they do. They actually,
Recycling,
Wait a second, he said they do.
they actually do. They do preventative maintenance on those as well.
inspections,
Preventative
Right.
maintenance and inspections.
correct. No, I'm sorry, I do understand that part of it also.
Okay.
But I guess what I was getting, so let's go back to that then. So that 8820, for the preventative maintenance and inspections, if we have any service calls, is that your response also?
That-
Is that additional?
They do respond, yes, they do. They do the inspections and they do the annual maintenance on those. And if there are repairs that need to be made, that is extra.
Okay. So, move on to the, refuse and recycle contract. That's a larger contract that is a continuous service. Is there a reason we're sticking with this one place and not putting it out for bid, or?
Well, to be honest with you, when I came in 2006, we were paying close to $60,000 a year for service that wasn't as good as what Biggs provides us. And we can lock that, and they haven't raised their price for a long time, and we can lock that in for 4 years as well. And all of the, Bill Keith, and I don't know if Nick can chime in or not, I don't know if Nick knows. But Bill Keith and all of the head custodians are very happy with Biggs. We call them, they come right out. We have our Neil Armstrong dumpsters right now are full of somebody who did some remodeling to their house, and they're going to dump it and not charge us. And I don't know that everybody would do that. We have a,
Hey, Ken, it's Nick.
Yeah.
From when I was at West Jeff, what we used there, I can't remember exactly what we paid, but the service, and we were forgotten a lot over there. For my month or so here, anytime I've noticed anything slightly overfilled, they're like, we'll be there in the morning, there's been no issue whatsoever.
So you recommend them too, then?
Yeah, I would stick with them. From what I use at West Jeff, I was on the phone continuously trying to make sure that we weren't forgotten, or making sure they're there at the proper times and not interfere with dismissal or departure. The fact that they've given us a pretty decent price for everything that's going on, and they know us, they won't interfere with us, is a big plus too.
All right, and there's only something, that you don't have to be on the phone with
Yeah, that too.
them. Thank you.
So can number 7 and number 8 go on the consent agenda then?
I'm good with that.
Okay. 7 and 8 goes on the consent agenda, and then, and 6, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9,
And
10,
eight.
and 8. 6, 7, and
Yeah.
8 on the
Yeah.
consent agenda. And then, go ahead, Derek.
9 and 10, okay, so, did anybody have any questions on 9 and 10 before we go on to the 11? Okay, so 11 is purchasing the study island science library program, amount of 1,600. So, speak up, anybody, if you have questions on any of these. The school messenger notification service, so, we're looking at that for a 3-year commitment of, 7,400. Is this a renewal? Because didn't we use school messenger for something right now? Isn't that what our like voicemails or emails are delivered on? Is this a renewal or is it new?
That's the service that Vicky uses to send out her blasts via email and voicemail. It's also the lunch balance alerts come out over that, and the attendance alerts come out over that.
Okay, but it's a renewal, it's not a, additional cost for
Correct.
investing in it.
It's a renewal.
Okay.
We're trying to lock in a 3-year cost with no increase.
Okay. Okay, good.
So, does anyone want 9, 10, 11, or 12? Does anyone have any objection to 9, 10, 11, or 12 being on the consent agenda? Okay, so the 9, 10, 11, and 12 are going to consent. Okay?
Okay. 13 and 14 look like they're together. It's around crowdfunding. And so 13 is to add a crowdfunding vendor, I believe it is, to our approved policy 702.1. And 14 is the approval for the Bethel Park High School football boosters to use snapraise.com to do the crowdfunding. Okay.
Any questions about those two items? Would anyone object to either of those being put on the consent agenda?
Pam, it says on here that we're approving this because they're gonna see more than $4,000 in funds. I believe I saw the number, but I just wanna make sure that it's confirmed.
Mr. Joello sent us information, so why don't we, put these two items on the, regular agenda, and we can revisit when he sent it, because he sent it to us a while ago.
What, you want me,
Correct, that's why I wanna
you want me
make
to
sure that we're
explain?
still doing the.
Go ahead.
On number 13, the policy says that I can approve any company that we want on this list. I asked you to do it because I didn't feel comfortable doing it because I don't know enough about it. Number 14, the policy says that any request that will be in excess of $4,000 has to have board approval. That's why both of these are on the agenda.
So, if we just, between now and, next week, if you would all take a look at, Mr. Delallo's proposal again, it's in your email, and we can, talk about those, that next week. So we will not put 13 and 14 on the consent agenda right now.
Actually, Pam, that email came from Buzzy, it was forwarded from Brian Lau, so.
Yeah.
Buzzy's email dated April 9th.
It was, the email was dated April 9th, and it was from Mr. Karazi, to refresh your memory about it before we vote on it next week. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Christensen.
Okay, so 15 is reappointing the school dentist. 16 is the approval of some service, student service contracts with Air Unlimited, Merck, Precision HR Staffing, Project Succeed, and Allegheny Intermediate. Questions on those? And then there's the broker of record for insurance services, Arthur Gallagher and Company. The Pathfinder administrative budget, and the sports medicine agreement. I actually had a question on the sports medicine agreement. If nobody has questions on the ones up above that. Okay. On the sports medicine agreement, you know, we're paying for a service, about, 32,000, a year, 3,000 or so a year. But we're giving them signage, we're giving them promotion. Are we getting everything we can get as a part of this agreement? I guess, you know, I've heard that, AGH is spending, or AHN is spending some, larger dollars with Peters to, you know, either, I don't know, his naming rights, get bigger signage on the gym and stuff like that. You know, are we getting our best value out of this also? Is there an opportunity for us to, you know, maybe, exchange some, additional signage or even naming rights for capital funds to invest in, you know, upgrading some of our facilities? It seems like this is the time to have that kind of conversation with them, since the contract is up for renewal.
They recently donated a, I guess you'd call it a four-wheeler, an
And I
ATV.
also want to see, you know, they've changed, his program, they're changing the, who's there. So a little more consistency on that end would be nice too.
Mr. Peretti was trying to tell us that they donated something.
They donated a gator for use for athletic events. A gator, you know, a four-wheel drive, it's not four-wheel drive, it's four-wheel vehicle, ATV. They did donate that just recently. I think John picked it up today, or he's gonna pick it up tomorrow. It's probably, 6,000 to 8,000, I would imagine. I don't remember exactly what it is, but they did donate that. We can have Dan approach them about, naming rights and signage and things like that if they're interested. I think we have 2 trainers though that are here all year.
2 trainers.
I think, don't hold me to that.
Guys, I think the big thing is too, if you can continue with the same trainers, you get that continuity of sports medicine that a lot of school districts kind of waver in between, people who come and come out. I'm not sure if this has anything to do with it, but I'm sure it has something to do with it. I know that trainers can be a dime a dozen, but once you get a good one, you want to keep them. So if we're only looking at $2,000 worth of a raise to keep the current personnel that the sports teams enjoy and feel confidence in, I think that's a good idea.
So
Yeah, my only point is that AHN probably has a bigger marketing budget than our whole school budget, so, you know, if we do a, you know, a trade, whether it's, you know, naming rights or something like that, can we get more out of this agreement, that benefits Bethel?
So it sounds like we definitely want to put this, item number 19 on the regular agenda and ask Pam Sloan, Mr. Peretti, if he can contact them and see if there can be any change or additions to
Okay.
the numbers.
I mean, the thing that we can offer is, you know, signage, advertisements, you know, that's a marketing value to them. I think we should see what they can, you know, what they can give us in return.
Pam, can I just add something to the discussion here based upon the timing? It looks like the agreement proposed on the table is for a 5-year period beginning July 1. I think that having that conversation with AHN is going to be really important, but we're going to probably need more than a week to get that negotiation done. If the board would be comfortable, I recommend deferring this till May at least.
Yeah, that I think is, you're right, it's gonna take some time to have that conversation and negotiate, but, since it doesn't expire till the end of the year, let's use the time.
Okay, so we're gonna move, number 19 then to May's agenda.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, my experience with sales is that deals always get better for the customer at the end of the quarter, so it's for us to wait.
Are there any objections to, 15, 16, 17, or 18 being put on the consent agenda? Okay, so those 15, 16, 17, and 18 will be put on the consent agenda. Okay, Ms. Turner?
I'm gonna need, Ms. Sundel's help here a little bit because we're gonna have to change on the fly this, waiver of policy requirement 213 for assessment of student progress. The Board of School Directors has approved suspension of the grading scale outlined in policy 213, assessment of student progress for the fourth quarter of the 19-20 school year, provide CAS-based. But the high school now has a modified grading scale, as recommended by the administration, and the modified grading scale is not included in the policy.
So between
So
now,
I would suggest that we update we can add an attachment and we can add some language within the motion to allow for the differences that are occurring in the high school.
That's what the grading sure.
Yeah, we can work on that, and I'd like, if there was anything produced by the high school administration to just sort of outline specifically what within the policy they are recommending be changed, like for example, on the graduation, which is the next item, it's like a 1 or 2 pager. I think that it would be beneficial for us to add that to the agenda for next week.
Amy, and board, I don't know if this takes care of it or not. The students at the high school are still in line for a pass-fail. But however, to try to positively impact their QPA, we're translating it into a letter grade. And that's what some of the other schools are doing. So I wasn't sure, I noticed this in the policy, and I wasn't sure if this needed to be amended or if it was just an application of the policy.
Dr. D'Imperio, it's Kim. I believe when we started this, we were gonna have to change it anyways because K through 8 would be a pass-fail, and then 9 through 12 is, the grading scale is not the same as the grading scale that is in policy 213.
What would happen in 9 through 12 is they would receive a pass-fail, but it would be translated into a letter
right, Pam.
So is everyone, I mean, just to repeat also, whenever we adopt the agenda next week, if there happens to be any item on the consent agenda that you changed your mind about and you want to be placed into the voting meeting, that can also be done. So at this time, all 7 of those items will go on the consent agenda. Okay, are there any public comments that have come in? One that should be read or not?
This is the comments entire school district staff and school board done an amazing job communicating with the families and implementing a lot of our. Thank you for your time and dedication.
I also want to remind the public one last time that when you do send something in on public comments at btgox.org, or that you have to include your name and address in order for us to read it. I'd like to thank everybody for making our way through this particular agenda. And now that we have all of those items on the consent agenda, maybe it will move a lot more quickly next week. Thank you all, and good night.
Oh, we have to move to adjourn.
I don't know, it's a committee.
Move to adjourn.
Not on a committee meeting.
We don't normally.